I'm looking forward to my class with Miss Hastings. She makes everyone feel like they can learn math. She always says hi to us when we come into class, and she expects us to get right down to work. She has a problem on the board for us to solve on our own, or we check in with our base group.
What's a base group?
It's a group that stays together for a semester. We do some team-building activities and other fun stuff to get to know one another. That makes it easier to speak up in class.
Mr. Somerville is usually busy at his desk when we come in, and we just talk until a few minutes after the bell. Then he asks us to be quiet, and he starts his lecture. Mostly, we're just bored. Some kids even put their heads down on their desks.
We'd never do that in Miss Hastings' class. She'd think we were sick or something. She expects us to do our best every day, and she tells us lots of stories about people who worked and succeeded. She likes us to share stories like that about ourselves or other people we know. We even keep track of how much effort we're putting into our work and how much we're learning. Sometimes I get discouraged, but Miss Hastings always says something to help me see what I do know and what I can do to get better.
I wish Mr. Somerville was more like Miss Hastings. Maybe then I'd care more about learning and get better grades.
Obviously, we want our students to think of our class like Ms. Hastings' class and less like Mr. Somerville. So how are we going to do that? This series is a condensation of the second edition of Classroom Instruction That Works, Research-Based Strategies for Increasing Student Achievement. This is based on work by Robert Marzano at Marzano Research. They studied a number of research studies and a considerable amount of literature and compiled a list of those classroom practices that had the greatest effect on student achievement. The authors then organized these practices into several categories and developed a three-part framework. First, creating the environment for learning. This is the backdrop or context for every lesson. When teachers create an effective environment, they're providing the setting within which the other methods can take place. If the classroom environment is ineffective, it hinders or prevents learning from taking place. It involves motivation, focus, feedback, encouragement, and training and self-monitoring. Second, helping students develop understanding. The focus here is for teachers to build new knowledge on what students already know. That prior knowledge then becomes a scaffold for new learning and organization. You see, students are not just passive recipients of knowledge. They are actively constructing or building their learning by recalling prior knowledge, making predictions, correcting misconceptions, recognizing patterns in information, and mentally storing their new knowledge. The third area is helping students extend and apply knowledge. So here we're going to be focused on helping students move beyond the right answer and move them towards learning how to apply their knowledge in new situations. Students will learn to be flexible in using what they have learned and can use complex reasoning processes. So here's how these all fit together. We create a proper environment for learning. Within that, we have strategies which help students develop their understanding. Then we help them extend and apply that knowledge. Now notice that throughout this, we're looking here only at the strictly instructional aspects of teaching. It should go without saying that all this has to take place within the context of a biblical approach to classroom management and student discipline, and it assumes a Christian understanding of the content of the lessons. We're not going to be dealing with curricular issues or content issues. Our focus is on the instructional strategies that will help you become more effective as teachers, no matter what subject you teach. So what we're going to be doing in this series is working through and summarizing this book. We'll have 1 or 2 video sessions on each of these 9 strategies in which we explain the strategy and give some examples of what they might look like in the classroom. After that, we'll look at how to plan instruction using these 9 strategies intentionally, how you can fit them all together in your lesson development. But now this series is not meant to be just an academic exercise where you watch videos and remember, or more likely forget, what you see and hear. The purpose of this, as with all staff development, is that you might become more effective as a teacher. So there are 3 things that we're going to be doing in this series that will help promote this goal. First, I'm going to be using these strategies myself as part of this course. Obviously, since it's an online course, some things will be a bit different than what you would do in the classroom. But since I believe these are methods that are effective in learning, and since I want you to learn from this series, I'll be using the methods as I teach you these methods. Second, I'm going to give you various opportunities to respond throughout the series. This isn't just a one-way street from me to you. You are going to respond as well. I and others who take this course can then respond to your input. There may be some brief written assignments here and there, just asking for your thoughts and some input on what we're discussing. Finally, since we want this to have an impact on your classroom instruction, at several points in the series, I'm going to ask that you set up a time when 1 or more of your peer teachers can come in your classroom and specifically observe you as you implement 1 or more of these strategies. At times, I'm going to want to see you myself. Now let me assure you, the point of this is for you to try out things and get some feedback as you do so. I want to emphasize that this is not going to be for the purposes of formal evaluation. It's not going to be like somebody comes into your class, especially me or somebody else, comes in and watches you try something else and it doesn't work well, and we're going to say, okay, well, you must not be a good teacher. The point is for you to learn, for you to grow, for you to try things out and see how you can improve. That's purely what the purpose is. But I believe it's important that you put these things into practice, and so that's going to be required for you to get the CEU credits for this course. It's not just a matter of you reading or listening and taking stuff in and probably forgetting it. I want this to have an effect on your teaching. And by the way, I would encourage you to purchase this book for yourself. The book is available at Amazon or other fine retailers. It's not required that you purchase the book. I'm not going to be assigning readings in it. I'm going to be summarizing the material. But I think it will give you more detail about the things we talk about here, and it'll give you some of the research background as well behind the methods they recommend. So, with that as an introduction, let's get started. In the next video, we're going to start looking at how we can create an effective environment for learning.